Lots of new information is starting to come out regarding the very last few appearances for John Cena's career. We'll also check out what's new with Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, and more. Starting things off with all the new information for John Cena and the very few remaining dates on his farewell tour. It was first reported earlier in the year that Gunther was being eyed to potentially be John Cena's final opponent. Well, according to brand new reports that are circulating, Gunther is allegedly still the favorite to face John Cena in Cena's final match in December. According to these rumors, the narrative will be that with so many superstars obviously wanting to be John Cena's final opponent, there will be a tournament set in place for everyone who has interest in being John Cena's final opponent. The winner and survivor of that tournament will have the privilege of facing John Cena in December. So if they do go down that tournament route, it surely looks like Gunther will be the one to outlast everyone else that's fighting for that opportunity to face John Cena in December. Of course, when it comes to something as big as John Cena's final match, you're going to have some disagreements within the community. Some people really like the idea of Gunther being John Cena's final opponent, while other people really dislike the idea of Gunther being the final opponent. So it's definitely a real mixed reaction there from the fans on this final opponent for John Cena. And if it does end up going to Gunther, then Gunther would have had a pretty decent year in 2025. Sure, he lost the World Heavyweight title twice within the year, but he also retired both Goldberg and John Cena in 2025. Gunther goes down in the history books as the final opponent for two of the biggest stars pro wrestling has ever seen, and Gunther accomplished both of those retirement matches within the same year. So that's a huge career accomplishment for Gunther to be given that honor to share the ring with those two all-time greats for their final matches. And not only facing them in their final matches, but defeating them as well. Gunther already pinned Goldberg in that final match in July. So now if Gunther pins John Cena in that final match in December, that really puts Gunther on this whole other level. Pinning those two legends within a few months apart from each other will really start to put Gunther in a category above a large part of the roster. He's already a two-time world champion, but now having these two gigantic wins under his belts as well, that's really something special. It also seems like something that could really launch Gunther even further into being a top heel in the company. He retired and defeated two top babyface legends in their final matches. That's bound to definitely draw some heat from the crowds, and it's something that Gunther could constantly bring up when he speaks. So that's the latest there, assuming there's no crazy swerve on the way. It looks like it'll be Gunther versus John Cena in December. There was also a report that came out recently claiming that even some individuals within the company were aware of John Cena's retirement tour falling a little flat and being an overall disappointment. And that's definitely kind of true. When John Cena first announced the retirement tour, it was a pretty intriguing idea. He has one last active year in the ring. They have the full year to really plan ahead and see how they want to handle that tour. But it feels like it never really had a clear flow. It seems like they never really had a clear direction of what they wanted it to be. The heel turn itself is something that everyone looks at and acknowledges as a complete waste of time. And even for several of these big recent matches, there was absolutely zero build and zero story behind them, making them a little less memorable and less meaningful. John Cena was facing guys like Brock Lesnar and AJ Styles for the final time ever, and it just didn't feel important because there was no story, no real backbone behind any of those big final matchups. Overall, as one big retirement tour, can't really label it as perfection. You'll be able to look back and maybe cherry pick some little highlights, but just as one overall thing, it did feel like a letdown in many ways. So it's definitely been a heavily flawed retirement tour, but fans are just hoping that at least the send-off in December can be perfectly executed without the ball being dropped there as well. Super high-quality storylines are a little bit rare to see currently, but that is what's going on between Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. It's a meaningless non-title match where pretty much nothing at all is on the line between Seth and Cody, but they have done an amazing job of making this match feel insanely important and making it feel like the stakes are at an all-time high. And they did that through great storytelling and great build-up. Cody and Seth exchanged some heavy words with one another. Seth said that they were never really friends. He didn't help Cody as a friend in 2024. He did it because Cody was the lesser of two evils. And Cody took shots at some of Seth's biggest insecurities, questioning if Seth truly did have all the power in the vision, or if his group had no respect for him. Then they had the post-match moment together on SmackDown, where Cody baited Seth into coming back to the ring to get dropped. So a lot of high quality story building here for this match. If you even compare it to the Women's Crown Jewel match, you can see the difference in quality. Stephanie and Tiffany have no story and no build up heading into their match. Their one key moment was a contract signing, where they both told each other how they respected each other, but was going to beat the other. Meanwhile, the Men's Crown Jewel Championship has a heavy program backing it. The most important segment for the Cody and Seth match came on the October 6th edition of Raw, with a backstage segment. The segment starts off with Becky once again ranting to Seth about all her recent displeasures, but Seth isn't really listening and doesn't respond at all because he's extremely busy dealing with Cody Rhodes, who's deep into his head. Seth calls over Paul Heyman and tells him about how he has to win against Cody Rhodes. Seth then asks Paul Heyman what happens if he loses to Cody Rhodes, and that's when we see the stakes get raised even more. Paul Heyman says if Seth loses to Cody again, Seth will lose the locker room, the Vision members will lose faith in him, everything they built will be thrown away, and how he'll look like a secondary champion. Paul Heyman also added that if Seth loses to Cody for a fourth time, Heyman would have to ask himself why he picked Seth over Roman Reigns. And this was an absolutely amazing backstage segment. It added so much depth and stakes to the match through a very deep conversation. It makes you actually care for the match now that you know what's pretty much on the line for Seth Rollins here. If Cody loses the match, Cody doesn't really lose anything. He's still the champion, he'll go on about his business. But if Seth loses, well, you just heard about everything that he would lose if that's the case. Seth will lose the locker room, lose the Vision, lose Paul Heyman, and won't really be looked at as a world champion on Cody's same level. So it's an absolute must-win for Seth Rollins, no doubt about it. You can certainly argue that it's one of the most important matches of Seth's entire career. And after hearing those stakes explained, a lot of fans are picking Seth Rollins to win because there's no way you can have him take a fourth straight loss to Cody Rhodes. Because at that point, this isn't even a rivalry, it's just a one-sided domination. Seth, it's definitely time for Cody to get up on the scoreboard against Cody Rhodes. Doesn't have to be cleanly, Seth has a lot of people at his disposal to help him win somehow. He got the Bronze, Becky, and Paul Heyman, so a big plan there using some of those members should be enough to get past Cody Rhodes in this match. If Seth picks up that win, it'll improve everything that's currently going on for him. The Vision members will have even more faith in him, Paul Heyman would know he made the right decision picking him over Roman, and the locker room could start looking at Seth as the top guy over Cody. So that's what's on the line for Seth Rollins at Crown Jewel. If he loses this match, his whole entire world take a massive hit. So Seth has to pull out the win some way, somehow. His only way past this is to win. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.